It's bad to pick favorite characters in a murder mystery. Oh, I can't talk about it without spoiling it. Wow, this is a really hard one. They're drinking demon blood. Super popular book. Was it worth the hype? I thought, hello, hi friends. It's already time for another wrap up. I'm doing it quite early because I'm actually traveling, which means I don't want to make too many promises because my parents are packing. I'm going back to America to help my parents move, and this is such a tangent. I don't know how I just like jumped into this, but I hope you guys are like buckled in. Welcome to the video. I'm going back to America next week for a little bit, and I'm helping my parents move, but hopefully I can finally show you like a teensy look at my books, my bookshelves. I can show you empty bookshelves because that's where all my books are. Everybody's like, can we get a bookshelf tour? I have this pile here, but like everything that I've collected throughout my life, and my mother is a librarian, so we have a couple books in my house. All of those books are in my childhood home, so we'll see. We might just do, like I said, an empty bookshelf tour, but I'm excited for that. That's why I'm so on time with this What I Read in June video. Before we fully jump into it though, I do want to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, which is Skillshare, who I hype up all the time. And so Skillshare is an online learning community that has classes ranging from business and like accounting or whatever, all the way over to illustration. They help me with my thumbnails, they help me teach me how to use Procreate, etc. They're a wonderful service, and I want to talk about the class that I just recently took, which is visual journaling, drawing your feelings. You guys know that I dilly-dally in all different types of art. I'm not particularly good at any one thing, but I love doing it. And I actually realized as I was watching this class that this is something that I've done since I was a kid, but kind of learning it from someone who is like actually thought critically about it was really great. It's really fun and it's great, especially if you have issues journaling with words like I do. So if you do want to try out Skillshare, if you haven't used my code yet, come on. There will be a link down in the description, and the first 1,000 people to click that link will get a 1-month free membership on Skillshare. You can go wild for a month, and then after that it's about $10 a month. So thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this. I had a lot of feelings to record this month because of the books that I read, and we are going to dive into it chronologically, which is difficult because as I was looking at the list, I realized that the first book that I read, I don't remember the plot at all. So let's see how much of June I remember. I read some good books. Let's jump in. I actually didn't read that much young adult fantasy this month, if you can believe it. So I started off with Empire of Sand, which I had been hearing a lot of buzz about, and this was the book whose plot just left me, like absolutely was gone. And I think it's because I'm currently reading another fantasy that talks about sand a lot, so it's kind of like muddled in my brain. But after looking it up, the plot came back slowly but surely. It's here. Empire of Sand is a young adult fantasy novel, and we first meet our main character, who is the daughter of, I think he's like a governor. There's basically like the emperor and then a bunch of different governors, so he's very high up in like the royalty scale, I suppose. So she is the daughter of this governor, and then her mother is actually part of a group of people within this world who are very oppressed, and they're also just kind of rare. Again, the world building for me was a little bit confusing, but her mother is part of this kind of group of people that have magical abilities, and they have a really different culture than the majority. So like in the majority culture, marriage is very important, but in this culture, any kind of oath, like any kind of deal or contract or anything like that tying you to a person, place, or thing, they don't like that. They want independence and freedom. And so her mother has disappeared, or it is just absent. Like, it's very vague what happened to her mother, but it is clear that our main girl and her little sister are living in this palace, and there's just tension in general between the stepmother, obviously, who hates her but is trying to like keep the younger daughter and raise her uncorrupted by her like mother's culture, right? Because she's young enough to still mold and whatever. In the beginning, we're just really kind of trying to understand the world, and our main girl is still really trying to keep the culture of her mother, and they do a lot of rites. Like the magic comes from doing what they call rites or rituals, where it's almost like dance moves. I thought of it, when I pictured it, I thought of like yoga, how there's like sun salutations and like you do these poses to create this routine. And that's kind of what she does in order to like create this magic and stuff. And so the beginning of the book, I was just I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. But the action starts when these people show up. These they're like religious figures, but they show up with orders from the emperor, and they're like, hey, we need your daughter to marry this dude, like this random guy that we picked. We just need her over here. And in like the majority culture, again, marriage is really important, but specifically a woman's choice. Like women don't have any power except she's allowed to choose who she marries. Like that's very sacred. You can't take that away from women. You can take away everything else, but she gets to choose who she marries. Everyone was just kind of like, what the hell is going on? And so it just gets very confusing. She gets whisked off into the desert to join basically a cult, and she is being trained to use her magic in order to help the leader of this cult, who also, like, the whole country is run by this cult. I loved the idea of it. How do I explain this? I didn't love it. Felt like everything was kind of muddled. I don't know. Like, again, I think the idea was cool. The magic being done through like these routines was very cool, but there was just so much that was just a little confusing. Like there were so many layers. There's like the emperor, and then there's like this cult, and then there's the governors, and then there's all these different factions of people who have different magic, and like it was a little muddled, I would say. There is a sequel, but I did recently, like just yesterday, get a comment saying basically like, just read Empire of Sand, like don't continue. I will continue, I think, if I can get my hands on the sequel, but yeah, just for me, it was a little confusing and not my favorite read. The one that I'm reading currently that's about sand, I like better, which I'll talk about in my what I read in July. So yeah, that was Empire of Sand, a questionable start to my June. Okay, next up is a book that I already talked about in my, what was it? Oh, like book recommendations based on your favorite movies and TV shows. I talked about it in a way that compared it to Gossip Girl, which it is Ace of Spades, and I have heard buzz about this book. God, so is that more thunder? No. We are having just constant thunderstorms. It's insane. Okay, so Ace of Spades, super popular book. Was it worth the hype? I thought yes. It is constantly called a combination of Gossip Girl and Get Out. And if you want more info about either of those, you can watch my movies and TV show video. But Ace of Spades takes place in this like fancy prep school, and we begin our story on the first day of senior year. And we have two characters, our main girl and our main guy. Vaughn is like the music kid. He wants to go to Juilliard. He's super quiet. Nobody knows him. He has like one friend, and he's like on a scholarship. He lives on the quote unquote like wrong part of town, whatever. And then we have Chi, who is the super popular girl. She is wealthy. She is, well, not well liked necessarily, but like well known. Super smart. She wants to go to med school. She wants to go to Yale, etc. Opposite ends of the spectrum, right? However, they are the only two black kids in this entire school. Everyone else is hella white, hella rich. And the very beginning of senior year, literally the first day, everybody starts getting these anonymous text messages targeting Vaughn and Chi, and they would talk about like secrets or like things that nobody should know. Like, how do these people know these things? I said this in my other video, but like the comparison to Gossip Girl is like really vapid, and it's like none of the stuff actually matters, but what is occurring in this book I think actually matters. I highly recommend it. It had me on the edge of my seat, and I was wrong every single time when I was like, oh, I think I know who it is. You're gonna be wrong. Like, prepare to be fooled many times, or maybe not. Okay, so Ace of Spades, read it, please. The clouds keep changing, so I feel like I look really white and also really blue. So apologies for that. I'm not blue. But anyway, the next book I mentioned in my June TBR, and I said that I had no idea where I found this book and why and what it's about, and holds true. I still don't know where I heard about this book. Don't know how it got on my radar. It was fine. It's a standalone fantasy called House of Hollow. And how do I describe it? Didn't think of this beforehand. Oh, okay, here's something that I do remember I wanted to say in this video, is that the writing, especially in the prologue, the writing's really beautiful. It kind of fades once you get like into the action. She's more action-based and like telling us the story and stuff, but when she gets into her descriptive writing and kind of just scene setting, her writing is really beautiful. So I definitely appreciated that just from the get-go, like from the prologue. But what the book is about is these three sisters, and is that really a spoiler? Yeah, this is a hard book to not spoil. Well, they are three beautiful sisters, like magnetic, charismatic, talented, wonderful people, whatever. Their only big issue is that something happened to them when they were like maybe 11, 9, and 7 years old. The three of them, something happened, and I can't tell you what because you have to learn about it through the book, but they become pretty famous for it. Like, they're known as being these weird kids that this thing happened to, and they can't remember. The daughters, sisters cannot remember what happened to them, and that's like part of what makes the situation so strange. Anyway, one of the sisters goes missing, and they need to help find her, and there is so much like, oh, I can't talk about it without spoiling it. Wow, this is a really hard one. It was interesting because it ties into kind of like a fairy tale realm and a real world. So like one of the sisters is a fashion designer and one of the sisters is in like a rock band. It takes place mostly in the real present day world. It was very dark, very much like a creepy old fairy tale. So it wasn't my absolute favorite, but it definitely, if you're looking for a standalone quick read that's kind of like a dark fairy tale mystery, there you go. House of Hollow. I'm so sorry, that was probably my worst summary ever, but it's very hard not to spoil. So, House of Hollow. All right, next, another one that I had no idea what it was until I opened the book. I read The Chosen and Beautiful, and this is a magical realism retelling of The Great Gatsby. And so, which is a book that I was forced to read in high school. So I feel like at least Americans would probably have an understanding of what The Great Gatsby is about. And then of course there's the movie. But in case you don't know, The Great Gatsby is about a man named Gatsby who is in love with a woman named Daisy. But Daisy is very rich and married up into an even more rich family, and they're living on Long Island and blah blah blah. Gatsby moves across the pond, bay, water from them, and he just throws these like noisy, crazy, loud parties, and he hopes that one day Daisy will come over and see him and they will fall in love and they will run away and like be together forever, because that's what true love is. The Great Gatsby is actually told through the eyes of his kind of neighbor friend Nick, who is related to Daisy. It's all very, yeah, it takes place in the 20s. Anyway, and Daisy has a friend named Jordan who is a tennis player. She kind of bops in and out. But in this retelling, Jordan is the one who's telling the story. So that seems normal, right? It's just a retelling of the story through different eyes this time. Wrong. So I was reading it and I didn't know that it was kind of magical realism. The first 2 paragraphs, the first chapter, let's say, so beautiful. They are like doing magic and like flying around a room. I don't know. It was just the first page. Please read it. It's so beautiful. But I was kind of like, maybe this is just a weird dream. Maybe this is just a weird metaphor. Let's keep reading. And then a couple pages later, they're talking about drinking. They're drinking demon blood. And so we start to learn that in this world there is actually the devil and hell, and you can make deals with the devil, you can sell your soul to the devil, but you can also drink demon blood because that tastes really good and it's like even better than alcohol. It was very strange. And Jordan is also, in this story, she was adopted by a white woman who was like a missionary in Vietnam. I think I was just confused about why The Great Gatsby was the backdrop. Like, I think that this could have been such an interesting story even if it was just like completely freed from the ties to The Great Gatsby. It just kind of confused me that that was there. Like, I wanted to know more of Jordan's story, just like as Jordan as a person, and I didn't think it needed to be tied to her friendship with Daisy, and I don't think it needed to be tied to her connections with Nick and Gatsby and all this stuff. I almost wish that it was kind of free and she could have just like told this story, because she also has these like really interesting magical abilities where she can like cut paper and like things will come to life. I mean, it was cool. They talked about Chinatown in the 20s, like the imagery and everything was really cool, but the story, I was just like, I don't want to know about like, I know the story of Great Gatsby. I want to know more about Jordan. And it kind of, because it was like 50-50, like new Jordan story and old Great Gatsby story, I got kind of bored and confused, and I was like, just tell me about Jordan. Jordan's so much more interesting than these like rich annoying people, even though Jordan's rich as well. So, but anyway, but I thought that the like demon thing was touched upon so little that I was just confused. Like, again, she kind of did this 50-50 thing where like there's a tiny bit of magic, and like I wanted more of Jordan and her magic and the demon stuff, but she kind of, I don't know. But overall, it was beautiful. It definitely had summer vibes because The Great Gatsby takes place over like a very hot summer. Somebody was asking recently for like a summer read, and I didn't have any ideas. This one, I felt hot, and when they were drinking demon blood, I was like, oh, quench my thirst. It was a very nice summer read. So The Chosen and the Beautiful, I wish there was more about Jordan and her life, etc., but overall, an okay read. And last but not least, I read the Decagon House Murders. So we're back on my thriller and murder mystery stuff. This was very obviously heavily inspired by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which is, I would say, the best Agatha Christie to start with. It's been made into films. It's just a pretty classic. Like, if you're dipping your toe into Agatha Christie, And Then There Were None is a great one. And Then There Were None is about a group of people who show up at this house. They've all been invited, and one by one they start to die. So who could the murderer be? The murderer has to be one of these people in the house on this abandoned island, right? And so as people keep dying, you're sort of like, oh, I thought he was the murderer, but he got murdered, so I guess he's not. And it's very interesting. And so the Decagon House Murders is very similar, but I thought it was really well done. Basically, there is this island where a big murder-suicide occurred. Then after that, like, the house burnt down and nobody wants to live on this island, obviously, and so some guy just like bought it because he could. And turns out that his nephew is part of a murder mystery club in college, and so they get together and they like read and write murder mysteries. They have a little magazine, all this stuff, and all of the members take different names of either detectives or of actual writers. So there is an Agatha, based on Agatha Christie. A couple members of this club decide that they're gonna go spend a week on this island and like investigate, and they're gonna write about it in the magazine and like blah blah blah. And then a couple of the members were like, that seems kind of weird, like that's a little bit too far, this is a real murder, we're gonna stay home. So we actually get to see two sides of the story, which I thought was really cool. We are on the island with these people seeing what's happening, and then we are on the mainland with a couple other members of the club who are kind of like receiving creepy letters, and they're realizing that like someone is targeting our club. I hope the people on the island are okay. Why don't we investigate these letters, and then when our club people come back we can tell them everything that we learned. little do they know the people on the island are getting killed off, right? It's very much and then there were none. Who invited them to the island? Who would have a vendetta against these people? Like, why are they targeting these people? Who is doing the killing? It's dark as hell, as you would assume if there are multiple murders in a book. But I thought it was good, especially for someone who likes an Agatha Christie kind of story. The ending threw me for a loop, and it was so sad. I mean, I know that like it's bad to pick favorite characters in a murder mystery, but like the people I liked, I felt like I was cursing them. They were just dropping, like the second I was like, oh, this is my favorite character, they were just like so anyway, I would recommend it if you're into that kind of thing, the Decagon House Murders. I read it in pretty much one sitting. It was very good. I feel like I had a really weird mix of books in June. I definitely loved Ace of Spades and the Decagon House Murders. The other ones I was a little bit more confused by, but overall I wasn't mad about any of the books that I read. They weren't a waste of time at all. And for July, I'm currently reading We Hunt the Flame, which has been recommended to me numerous times. So I'm currently reading that. That is the one that's also about sand that I'm enjoying. And what else? I got a bunch of books. Actually, should we do a TBR? If I get around to it, hopefully, if I have time. I did get the second book of Cari, which I'm gonna give a try. I'm also going to read Project Hail Mary, which is the new Andy Weir. I really liked The Martian and Artemis, so that will be good. That might be my airplane read because I can eat those up. I also got The Maidens, which is a book by the same author as The Silent Patient, which I talked about in my other video. And then I'm Waiting for You and Other Stories by Kim Bo-young. I saw this thanks to Amplify Bookstore, which is a really cool online bookstore based in Melbourne or Melbourne, depending on if you want to say it correctly. Yeah, we're gonna see how much reading I get done in July because I'm gonna be moving around a lot and blah blah blah. But I have books that I'm excited for, and I'm excited for my trip back home. So yeah, sorry that I always say this, but like I'm sorry that I can't explain books well when they have very important things that I can't spoil. But I hope that any of those kind of piqued your interest. I would say if you liked The Wicked Deep, you would like House of Hollow. Sorry, I'm saying this so late in the video. But I felt kind of the same vibes as that. It felt very Wicked Deep-ish. There you go. There's that one. But anyway, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this. Once again, in the description box, there is a link. First 1,000 people to click it will get 1 month free Skillshare Premium membership. And then after that, it's about $10 a month. So thank you to Skillshare. I will be doodling a lot on the plane. I'm gonna have some intense, complex feelings because I'm moving out of my childhood home. But I'll be processing them in my journal. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. I'm actually working on a video about a TV series. If you can guess it, that would be incredible. It's a TV series from the beginning of the 2000s that is so adult fantasy. Like, I don't know why there isn't a bigger fandom surrounding this TV show. It's a fantasy show that didn't get a whole lot of hype, and or at least if it did, it didn't extend into this generation. I'm gonna talk about it, and I hope that I can like reel some people into watching this like 48-hour long mini-series. Yeah, I will see you guys then. I don't know when that one will come out, but definitely there will be some reading vlogs coming. You'll get a new background because I'll be in America. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're all reading excellent things, and I will catch you later. Bye.